At first glance, the Lakers roster looks finished. The final spot is filled, the buyout window seems closed, and the front office appears to be standing pat. But that surface-level reading misses what's really happening behind the scenes. The signing of Kobe Buffkin wasn't a routine move, it was a strategic checkpoint. The Lakers are walking a financial tightrope, balancing present competitiveness with future flexibility, and every remaining option comes with a real cost. As a Los Angeles Lakers fan and someone who follows the league's day-to-day closely, with attention to what's happening behind the scenes, I want to be very clear with you from the start. The signing of Kobe Buffkin is not just another routine roster move. It carries an important strategic signal, and at first glance, it can easily go unnoticed. Over the past few days, the general feeling both inside and outside the franchise was that the Lakers had definitively closed the door on the buyout market. By signing Buffkin to a standard 2-year contract, the team officially filled its 15th and final roster spot, something that normally signals the end of roster movement. But when you look more closely, that interpretation is incomplete. What I've gathered, by cross-checking market information and salary cap analysis, is that the Lakers haven't completely shut the door on one final roster adjustment. The issue isn't lack of interest, it's financial structure and strategic cost. Right now, the Lakers are operating with an extremely narrow margin. The team is committed to a clear objective, staying competitive in the Western Conference, fighting near the top of the standings, while at the same time preserving salary flexibility for 2026, something the front office considers non-negotiable. That creates a real dilemma. Any move made now has to make immediate basketball sense without compromising the future. In theory, the simplest solution would be to waive a player on an expiring contract. In practice, that option barely exists. Players like Rui Hachimura, Luke Kennard, Maxi Kleber, and Jackson Hayes may be on short-term deals, but all of them fill real roles within the rotation. Kennard was clearly brought in for his floor spacing, something vital next to LeBron and Davis. Hachimura remains a physical, reliable, and versatile wing. Kleber provides defensive awareness and tactical flexibility in the frontcourt. Hayes, meanwhile, is one of the few true centers on the roster. Waiving any of them would immediately weaken the team, something that simply doesn't align with where the franchise is right now. And this is exactly where the Buffkin signing starts to take on a different meaning. By choosing a young player with a developmental profile and a controlled contract, the Lakers are buying time. They officially close the roster, but keep a reversible scenario in place in case a truly out-of-the-ordinary opportunity appears on the buyout market. This is a containment move, not complacency. Internally, the message is clear: any new addition must justify a real sacrifice. There's no longer room for average bets. Either the player raises the team's competitive ceiling, or the move simply doesn't happen. So this first move is not an endpoint, it's a checkpoint. The Lakers are telling the market, we're complete, but we're paying attention. If the first layer of this discussion is about caution and market reading, the second layer is far more sensitive. Here, the decision stops being purely technical and becomes structural and financial, which is exactly why the Lakers are walking such a fine line. When it comes to creating roster space right now, the most direct option would be waiving a player with a non-expiring contract. But that's the kind of move the Lakers avoid at almost any cost. And it's not about attachment to names, it's about medium and long-term planning. Players like DeAndre Ayton, Marcus Smart, and Jake LaRavia are viewed internally as real assets. Not just for what they provide on the court, but because of their contract balance and their potential use in future scenarios, whether as rotation pieces or trade assets. None of them is anywhere close to being considered expendable. That narrows the discussion down to a very specific group: younger players, controlled contracts, and limited immediate impact in the rotation. And once you eliminate what isn't an option, very little remains. Within that context, two names are essentially off the table. Bronny James continues to be treated as an organizational project. Regardless of outside debate, internally he's seen as someone who adds value to the environment, practices, and development process, and that carries more weight than many realize. Adou Thiero, meanwhile, is viewed as a development priority, a player the coaching staff believes can be molded with time and structure. That inevitably brings us to the most uncomfortable point in this equation. The name that truly blocks any move right now is Dalton Connect. Connect has completely fallen out of the rotation. That's not speculation, it's observable on the floor. More than that, his name has actively circulated in trade conversations, and league sources indicated that his market value was negative. In practical terms, that means the Lakers would need to attach a draft pick just to move him, something the franchise is extremely reluctant to do, especially given where they are in their competitive cycle. There were rumors of player dissatisfaction and even a supposed trade request, which were officially denied. But when you look at the run of games, the lack of minutes, and even body language in certain moments, it's clear that frustration exists. And that frustration hasn't gone unnoticed by the coaching staff. Head coach J.J. Redick himself has, at times, publicly shown disappointment with Connect's execution and consistency when opportunities arose. This isn't about targeting or premature judgment, it's about fit, or the lack of it, on a team that needs results now. The problem is that waiving Connect isn't simple. Financially, it would mean carrying part of his salary beyond this season, directly impacting the salary flexibility the Lakers are determined to protect for 2026. And that flexibility isn't a minor detail, it's at the core of any ambitious future plan for the franchise. So what happens in practice? The Lakers know what the obstacle is. They know what the most direct solution would be. But they're not willing to pay that price right now unless the reward is truly significant. That's the real reason why the buyout market is being watched with caution rather than aggression. It's not that there aren't interesting names. It's that there isn't a name worth breaking the plan for. After analyzing all the obvious possibilities, expiring contracts, players out of the rotation, and financial impact, only one technical alternative remains for the Lakers to open a roster spot without compromising the future: adjusting two-way contracts. Right now, players like Chris Manon and Nick Smith Jr. occupy those deals. Technically, waiving one of them would allow the Lakers to open a spot on the main roster without creating long-term financial impact. It's the only path that doesn't interfere with the 2026 salary plan. But that solution comes with a very clear limitation, and here it's important to be honest with fans. By choosing this route, the Lakers automatically limit themselves to minimum contract players. That eliminates any chance of immediate, meaningful impact. We're not talking about someone who would change the roster hierarchy, solve a structural issue, or raise the team's playoff ceiling. At best, it's situational depth, injury insurance, or a specific matchup adjustment. And that's exactly why the front office has been so deliberate. Behind the scenes, the Lakers were linked to names like Cam Thomas and Haywood Highsmith. Two very different profiles, but both would address clear needs: consistent bench scoring or defensive depth on the wing. The issue is that both would require harder decisions, whether financial impact or asset sacrifice. When you put all these pieces together, the signing of Kobe Buffkin stops looking random. It starts to make sense as a balance move. Buffkin doesn't compromise future flexibility, fills a technically available roster spot, and keeps the team functional. At the same time, he doesn't completely close the door on an emergency move should the situation change drastically: an unexpected injury, an unforeseen waiver, or a market opportunity too good to ignore. But being direct with you, that scenario is unlikely. What I see right now is a Lakers team aware of its limitations, but confident in the core it has built. The priority isn't volume of moves, it's quality of decisions. And that explains why the franchise prefers stability over forcing an addition that wouldn't meaningfully change the team's level. The internal read is simple: if there isn't someone who truly justifies the cost, financial, technical, or strategic, the roster is closed. And that brings us to the final takeaway I'll tie together in the video's conclusion. Buffkin may not be a headline-grabbing name, but he perfectly represents where the Lakers are right now: caution, calculation, and focus on what lies ahead.